a competition, so we want you to do your best. And it is a test of your grit. It's a test of your determination. And as we are looking to allocate state funds, we do recognize that we are in an environment of scarce resources. So this process, this project has been designed in such a way that we are cognizant of
Joy, if you just give me 1 second, I'm just going to remind everyone again to please keep their mics on mute for optimal audio experience. Thank you very much. Joy
is now on mute. She needs to be unmuted.
Okay. As I said, it is a fully transparent process. It's employers owning the skills agenda. And surprisingly enough, interestingly enough, was listening to CNN the other day where this is Workforce Development Week, and the US administration is doing an apprenticeship and talking about training institutions and employers getting together to do an apprenticeship program in the States. So don't think that this is something that is that cannot be done. This is a demand-driven project, meaning that we would want the employers and the training institutions, as I said before, to work in partnership to understand, to address all of the skills gap that's been experienced in the sector, because the overall and the overarching outcome is for us to build the sector and to build the cadre of skills within the ITS sector and other sectors in the economy, as we are definitively looking to diversify our national economy. Our presentation today would take the form of just a presentation, which is going to be led by Kim, and then we will have some questions and answers. So what I would really like to close off my little welcome this morning is just to say thank you so very much for participating, and we're wishing you all the best of luck. Kim, you take it away and carry us on through the presentation. Thanks much.
Morning. Thank you, Joy. So I want to stress that the presentation is a foundation for discussion. Hopefully, we'll be able to get your questions answered in a very efficient manner today, and so you can walk away fully equipped to prepare your strongest proposal possible. So that is the objective of today, to assist you to prepare your strongest possible proposal to make you as competitive as you can possibly be. What I'd like to suggest is that if any questions come up, type the questions into the group chat, and Tennille will field questions, because I assume that in some cases, persons may have overlapping questions. So as a question pops into your head, type it up, send it through to Tennille, and Tennille will field and share the questions, and then Joy and I will respond accordingly.
Kim,
so I
have 1 second. I just also wanted, I just wanted to acknowledge the presence of Tracy Hackshaw, who is the program manager for the Global Services Promotion Program. So good morning to Tracy.
Okay, thank you. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to share my screen, which is the presentation for today. So give me 1 second while I do that. Go figure, go figure. Okay. A person seeing the presentation? Can I get some nods to see if persons are seeing the presentation?
Yes, I think it's being seen. I saw a couple of nods.
Okay, great. So I'm going to move through the presentation. So here we see it's a proposal development workshop. Give me a second. All right. Okay, so here's the agenda for today. We're going to recap some of the fundamentals. We'll talk about the evaluation criteria. We'll delve into the proposal template. We'll discuss some enablers that will help you strengthen your proposal. We'll talk about key performance indicators, and then we'll wrap up with some questions and close. So just to quickly recap, remember there are two proposal options. Option A are proposals from firms that have 10 or more employees operating for at least 10 months, registered in Trinidad and Tobago in partnership with a training provider or training providers. And option B are proposals from coalitions of businesses that have less than 10 employees, and these coalitions will jointly partner with the training providers. To participate, all members of the coalition have to be in operation for at least 10 months and registered in Trinidad and Tobago. Partnerships are the only conduit for accessing funds. So you cannot access these funds if you are a business alone. You do need to have a training provider partner, and we stress that because your proposals will be disqualified if you have not identified your partner by the submission stage. So we're hoping at this
Kim, I would just want to add at this point that to show that you are in a partnership and to ensure that that we can see that the evaluation committee would be able to know that this is a partnership. This means that both entities will have to sign the proposal document itself. Right? So it's just making that note as it relates to partnerships only being able to access the funding and to show that you're in a partnership.
And by now, I'm sure everyone has downloaded the proposal template, and you will see, of course, that the cover letter of that template has signing authorities from both the training provider as well as the lead business entity. So moving along, we would also hope at this stage that you have assessed your skills gap, that you, as we said, you've identified your training provider partners, and that you have identified your preferred certifications for technical skills. Also on the website, you will find the evaluation criteria. There's a PowerPoint presentation on the website that sets out the evaluation criteria and gives many examples. So in these slides, I give an example of each. However, when you go on the website and you download that PowerPoint, there are many other examples to give you a sense of what we mean when we talk about relevance, what we mean when we talk about the universe of beneficiaries and spillovers. So for example, when we talk about relevance, we are asking the question, how important are the skills gaps for business operation? How much do the gaps limit growth in the sector, etc.? Universe of beneficiaries and spillovers, how large is the universe of beneficiaries? Will there be beneficiaries outside a participating partnership that will benefit due to spillovers? Of course, as you might imagine, having spillover effects will be a positive component in your proposal. So there's also quality assurance. Is there a strategy to ensure quality of the training, and what is the quality records of your providers? And sustainability, of course, is there a strategy to sustain these efforts after the funding from the IDB project is depleted? So you've gone through the template, I'm sure, so you're familiar with the sections in the document. Section 1 tells you how you have satisfied the proposal evaluation criteria. Section 1 is important because it requires you to map the evaluation criteria to the sections of your proposal that addresses it. The rationale for that is obvious, so that evaluators can quickly find the part of your proposal that will address the criteria under scrutiny. So it makes it a one-stop shop for reference when going through the evaluation process, flipping through your final proposal document. Section 2 gives some background. Section 3 talks about skills development and proposal design. Section 4 gives you some talks about the finances. Section 5 is risk assessment. And then there are a number of annexes. In a later slide, I show how the proposal template is actually mapped onto the evaluation criteria. So let me do that. So if you look here are the criteria on the left, and on the right, you see which section of the template that you received is going to cover and look at that particular criterion. So what I want to do now, and this is an opportunity for you to start sending your questions to Neil. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to go through the template by subsections and ask you to send any questions to Neil that we can address. Now, if you don't have a copy of the template, I hope that you can quickly go on to the website and pull it up. So for persons who may not have a copy of the template in front of them, I'll give you a quick minute to hop onto the globalskills.gov.tt website and pull up the proposal template. It is under the How to Apply section, under the tab that calls for submission, and the template is annex number 3. Okay. So everyone has access to the template. Can I get a thumbs up? Can I see a thumbs up? If you have the template, thumbs up. Persons who are on video, okay. Great, all right. So for persons who develop documents, we always assume that they're self-explanatory. So I am working with the assumption that this template is pretty straightforward. Information is clearly stated, shouldn't be especially confusing. But looking at subsection 2.1, does anybody have any questions related to what is being asked of you in terms of context and anticipated benefits?
Hi, yes.
Hello?
You can hear me?
I
Hello?
can, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I just wanted a clarification where the same 2.1, where it says provide an overview of the firm/association coalition strategic short-term or medium-term objectives. Do you mean that pertaining to the company as itself or the company as we present in the proposal?
Well, it would be in relation to whatever skill solution you're trying to put forward. So okay. The company has many strategic objectives in the short and medium term. However, let's keep to the ones that are relevant to your skill solution. So we can show the link between your short and medium term strategic objectives and the skill solution that you're putting forward. or the
Okay.
skills development plan. Does that make sense? So
Yeah,
we want
that
to keep
makes
it very tight. We don't want to hear about your attempts to acquire, say, a new asset if the acquisition of that asset has nothing to do with the skills development training that you're proposing, even though it might be a strategic objective to broaden your asset base, for example, right?
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Okay, so can I assume then that with respect to subsection 2.1, context and anticipated benefits, everyone understands what the section is asking you to do or to put forward? Yeah? Thumbs up? Okay, cool. So moving on to the next subsection, business drivers. Any questions or concerns with what is being asked of you here?
Kim, can you make sure to share your screen so that they are privy to the details?
No, I can't see the conversation and share my screen. So right now we're going through the proposal template document, and they should have a copy of that, or they should be seeing it on the website.
Okay, no problem.
So they should actually have either a hard copy in front of them or an electronic copy of the template, and we're going to go through it section by section.
Sure, no problem.
Okay.
Kim.
Yes?
Kim, hi, this is Chitra. So one of my colleagues had a question saying, I think you said you're asking for high-level strategic overview of a firm, association, coalition's current operating environment. Does this mean you are looking to get the business structure of a firm?
We're looking to understand what you do and what you do in the context of the solution that you're going to provide for skills development. So very high level, this is what we do. We're in the business of X.
Got it.
And our short and medium term strategy are X, Y, and Z in relation to what we're going to do in skills development.
Okay, and I just want to go 2 steps back very quickly. It's that you said or I think maybe Joy mentioned it, it's that it's mandatory that the proposal is signed by not just the training provider, but also a business entity.
Yes,
so if you have mentioned 2 or 3 names in the coalition, do they all have to sign it, or is it okay to get one sign?
Only one. So if you have more than one business involved in your proposal, you have to designate a lead entity.
Got it. Okay, perfect.
Yes, that's correct. The lead entity who will be representing you on the business side, that's the person who will be signing the proposal.
Great. Thank you so much.
On that note, I would draw your attention to there's a section of the template that gives you definitions. So it will tell you the definition of signing authority, and the signing authority would be your lead entity.
I have a question on that as we're talking about the partnerships, because I asked this in the chat, but if we're a certified training partner and we're a business, why do we have to have another training partner involved?
Well, we're looking for it to be business-led. So it's employers owning the skills agenda. And we're hoping that we're going to create networks between business and academia and trainers. So when you are one and all, it's an interesting model, right? Because you're a very peculiar case where you're actually a business and you're in the business of training.
At least it's part of what we do, correct?
The question is, if you want to put forward your strongest proposal possible, I would recommend that if it makes sense, to find a training provider partner. So at least you can say there's some transfer of knowledge. You're creating linkages. You're adding value in that regard. So it's not himself upon himself.
I don't understand. Because we do both. So we're a Microsoft certified trainer, and we're in a business and we do that. So I don't understand why we have to go find somebody else.
My point is that, as Joy mentioned, this is a competitive process. So you want to make yourself as competitive as possible relative to other applicants. And when you do side-by-side comparisons of proposals, and the evaluation committee has to ask itself, here is one candidate that is actually meeting the objectives of the project by creating linkages between business and trainers, academia. And here is another candidate that's not creating, as strong a link beyond the business into the training environment. Then the evaluator would ask, which of these proposals is actually meeting the objectives of the project better? And then Heidi, what do you assume would be the assessment?
Well, I think it's flawed, but anyways, we'll submit how we do.
Anyone else?
Hi, Vivi. Sorry to come in so late, but from what I'm understanding, hi, Karen Bascom from
Hi, Karen.
My colleague Alpha is here. What I'm understanding is that you all want us to partner with others. It's a stronger application, yes?
Definitely. Part of the objective of this project is to allow businesses to inform the national skills development agenda and to increase linkages between industry and academia to strengthen how we go about developing skills in Trinidad and Tobago.
So now that you say, well, I understand what you're saying, but the impression that I got from before was that the idea is to improve the services, the actual services here in Trinidad. So I don't see why,
But Karen, there are multiple objectives, right? That is one objective.
Yeah, I understand.
It's not a one-trick pony here. There are many objectives that we are trying to achieve via this project. It's a multi-pronged agenda. Yes, we want to build local skills. Yes, we want to improve our export capacity. Yes, we want to strengthen the ITS sector. Yes, we want to increase linkages between industry and academia. So there are many targets we're trying to hit with this project. And of course, if you present a proposal that hits multiple targets in terms of project objectives, you will present a stronger proposal, right?
Yes, I agree with you. What I'm saying is that it kind of was not clear beforehand, and it might be difficult for some people, not us, but for some persons to kind of like, remember we have to submit in like 2 days the letter of interest, and then we have to follow up with certain things. Some persons, like for example, with our coalition, we are looking internationally for our support, and sometimes these things take time to organize. So what I'm saying is that there was confusion, but I understand what you're saying. Oh, sorry.
I don't want to
stop talking.
Yeah, Karen, I don't want to take a defensive stance, but I hear you on the fact that the deadline is drawing near. I will remind persons that the call for proposals was opened in March, so about 2 months ago. So yes, there are persons who are late to the party. However, the actual launch of this project was a couple months ago. So persons would have had that time to organize themselves. And also, a lot of information is on the website. I hope that you've gone to the website. I hope you've taken a dive into it, read all of the long, boring documents and presentations.
I did. Yeah, I'm not. What happened is I personally, for our project, I know that we are okay. I hope, but I'm just when I came in, that was the first comment I heard, so I understand where the person was coming from when she was saying they have, they can do everything. And I understand from what I was just clarifying was that even though we had time and like those, because I saw it early and I got a call, etc., even though we had all of that time and all of that, it just wasn't that clear. So it might be a little difficult now for persons to, kind of get the strongest application then. But, that I'm just saying, that don't let for everyone there, I think you'll just still apply, you'll still have a chance, I hope. But that's all I was on.
Thanks, Karen. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Anyone else has a question about section 2.2?
I just would like, on behalf of UTT, to just add in on this point here, because we've sent 5 or 4 specific questions already to Tennille directly, privately, and I'm sure that there will be answers eventually during the session. But we just wanted to say, as Karen just said, that it's a pity that at 5 working days close to the deadline that we are getting this clinic, especially on the side of the training providers. We know when it was launched, we've been on it, we have the team that have extensively looked at the criteria, but you would see that there are a lot of different and gray areas, because we must all admit that this is something very innovative and very new with a lot of options. And I must say that it's a pity that we only have 5 working days before the deadline, especially that you want us to get signature from both sides, which of course would delay, because that making our deadline for maybe the 21st for the best. So I totally agree with what Karen said.
Okay, thank you for that comment, Deborah. Tennille, are there any questions that you want to put forward from the group chat?
Sure, no problem. Just give me 1 second as I pull up. So one question that came from Deborah, I'm not sure if it was addressed, but I will ask it again just for transparency purposes. With respect to quality assurance, most of the programs proposed for skills development are from international firms who are not educational or training institutions, and also they are not professional bodies, but they offer core training programs in specialist IT fields that are not available locally. Who then would be responsible for certification? That's the first question, and the second.
Okay, let me take that question, Tina, and then I'll take the next one. So, Deborah, what the proposal instruction says online, and I hope you've had a chance to read that document in detail. It says that we are aware that there are industry standards that are quality assured. We are aware that there are vendor qualifications like Microsoft, for example, that are quality assured. All we require is that your certification is quality assured by a legitimate external quality assurance agency. And it would be, the onus is on you to make the case for the quality assurance of your preferred certification. It's do the research, find out who quality assures the certificate that you want to offer, and put down the information as required. So we're not, for example, asking you to make sure that the ACTT, the Accreditation Council of Trinidad and Tobago, quality assures your certificate, because we're aware that the ACTT does not quality assure many relevant international certificates. However, there must be an entity. If it is a reputable certificate, there must be some entity, there must be some framework of quality assurance that you can reference and point us into the direction of. And just make the case for it.
And the second part of that question was, can more than one training model be used for the proposal?
Most definitely. When you set out your implementation plan and when you set out the operational procedures, you can create the logic chain for why different modalities of training would be relevant at a given phase of your implementation. So it might be the case that you may start off with some technical training, you might move to some mentorship, You might then transition into some on-the-job training at a later stage that spans the 18-month time frame that you have to complete. So we're not asking you to use one delivery method throughout. You just have to create the logic chain of why this delivery method and the mixed modality makes sense based on your skills solution.
Another question, should all programs that are developed require accreditation? Based on our experience, accreditation is an extensive process that can take us beyond the funding period.
No, we're not asking for accreditation. We're saying that your certificates have to be quality assured by a legitimate external quality assurance agency. So that says that I cannot create a certificate and quality assure it myself, because there's no objectivity in that.
Okay.
So, for example, one of the things that you can do in this program is create new certifications. We are aware through the ACTT and NTA that for short introductory certificates, for example, to quality assure those programs, to get those programs approved, it takes about 3 to 4 months. 3 to 4 months fits within an 18-month time frame. What we are aware, for example, through the NTA is that if you want an introductory certificate at level 1 or level 2, you can actually begin implementing while you simultaneously, in parallel, seek approval and quality assurance. So it's not the case that we are asking for accreditation by any means, because I'm very much aware that accreditation is a very rigorous and long process. However, we are, for the sake of the beneficiaries, I think as a project that is using government funds to boost national skills development, we wouldn't want to provide certificates that have no intrinsic value for the beneficiaries. We want to ensure the beneficiaries can take these certificates, carry them someplace else if required, and they can actually increase their employability through these certificates. We don't want diploma mills. We want something that has real value.
The next question, in the initial clinics, it was mentioned that online submissions may be considered. Has this been implemented? We are collaborating online from different sides of the island, so it would be a great help to us. And additionally, the printing costs are a consideration for us for such a large document.
Okay, and I think it's all relative and a matter of perception, right? When I print out this proposal template, which is what you need to complete with, you know, a word max in many cases of 800 words, I don't see an especially large document, but that is my perception. So when we put things into perspective, we are offering candidates $475,000 towards training, and we need you to have some skin in the game as well. If you have some skin in the game, we would hope that printing out these pages and presenting copies for the evaluation committee should not be an insurmountable obstacle, because you have some skin in this game too. You want a chance to win $475,000, and so you will do your part in terms of the investment to prepare the proposal and the time needed and coordination to drop it off.
The next question, will the signature from the training provider be all that is required for proof of the partnership for the submission of the proposal?
For the proposal submission stage, we just need we need to confirm that you have a legitimate training provider partner. Once we get to negotiations and contracting, then things will be refined. And for example, you will be requested to submit an MOU between you and the training provider. However, we're not asking you to do that work at this stage. This is just the proposal submission stage. As you move through the process, when you win an award, then there will be next steps, and those would include more concrete contractual arrangements.
Yes, just to note, just to say that at the point that an award has been made, there would be some definitive things or letters as well in terms of supporting. For example, the fact that there's going to be a disbursement into an account. As we had mentioned before in a previous clinic, we are requiring that a new account be opened. We know that our banking system is such that it would be very difficult to ask for the so-called partnership to open a joint bank account. But if it is that we are going to be making a disbursement into the lead entity's account, we would want to see that there's an agreement among the coalition, among the partners, agreement being that you've agreed that this is the lead entity and that all of the signatories will show that there's agreement that the funds are to be disbursed into a particular account. So just to let you know that from the point of view of submitting of the proposal, all you need to show that there is a partnership that is in place is that there is a signature on the proposal document. Now once you get an award, there would be some other requirements.
Next question. Is there an example of an ideal proposal?
That's a great question, and I've actually had that question before. I would say an ideal proposal follows the guidelines of the proposal template closely and tries to make the strongest case for how your skills development solution meets your business needs, as well as strengthens the ITF sector in Trinidad and Tobago and supports skills development locally. So I strongly, now I am vested as part of the team, but I strongly believe that the template is there to guide you. And through this exercise today, we will clarify any concerns in relation to the template. So walking away from today with the template fully understood, you are well equipped to present an ideal proposal based on a very innovative proposal skills development solution. And once we go through this phase, there's a wrap up where we will talk a little bit more in terms of addressing what an ideal proposal would look like. But I think your starting point, your foundation, your roots should be the proposal template. So going back to the template, let's continue. So we talked about section 2.2, and we got some questions in that regard. Section 2.3 talks about the value proposition of the partnership. And in this section, you're really asked to make the case for your training provider partner. So this will allow the evaluation committee members to know that your training provider partner is well equipped to work with you to deliver on your skills solution. Any questions about section 2.3? Going once, going twice. Tennille, any questions came in through the chat?
Yes, we have a few more questions.
Mm-hmm.
So CDC asked, our training support is a foreign firm and they're having to now be a signatory poses a logistical and time challenge, particularly as the previous understanding was that this was not required. Was this a new stipulation that was added?
Okay, thanks for that.
This was always a requirement. It's in the instruction document particularly. And if you look at
what I will say, Joy, if I can just interrupt, I understand it for persons who have international training providers. It might be difficult to get a signatory. However, I would suggest if you can get something in writing where they acknowledge that you have approached them to on the letterhead of the training provider. They acknowledge that you have approached them to work with, to provide training, and they have agreed to provide the training to you. And I think most training providers can provide that type of letter. So just confirmation that they're going to provide these training services or training services. Sorry.
Next question. Is there a specific budget we need to keep under on the proposals? And is there a certain number of proposals and or budget that will be accepted?
Okay. So we've addressed this question in the past. Each proposal can submit a budget up to 475,000 TT dollars. However, if your skills solution is under that, then there's no need to beef up your budget to make it to the max. So the awards are a maximum of $475,000. By no means are we saying that you have to submit a proposal for $475,000. Also, what you will notice when you read the proposal instructions, there's actually an opportunity for co-investment. So if you as a firm have a training solution that is $600,000 and you're willing to say, we will put the 200 plus, and we will take your 475, and you map that out in your budget. That is actually looked very favorably upon. Firms that are willing to co-invest, and you can also not only co-invest in terms of money, but you can co-invest in terms of time and in-kind co-investments. And the proposal instruction documents articulates what those kinds of in-kind investments are.
Next question. Where exactly does the proposal need to be submitted? Is it in Chaguanas? I'm not seeing the details online.
Okay, part of the question in terms of the pool, the maximum
the location of where to submit the document. It's, if you look on in the FAQs, if you look in the how to apply, the instructions are there as well in the call for proposals instruction document that is on the site. Just note that you must submit both hard and a soft copy of the proposal document itself, and it should be hand delivered to 25 Ramsaram Street in Chaguanas.
And I have a slide on that. I have a slide on that later on in the presentation. So as Joy said, it's on the website, and there's in the presentation you'll see that information coming up again later on as we move along.
Next question. While we understand the quality assurance process for a certificate program, what would be the quality assurance process for a new program that would be integrated into a diploma or degree program?
In that case, I would assume you would work through your training provider partner. You would work with an agency like the ACTT or the NTA to get your new certificate approved. Your training provider partner should have the knowledge base and the expertise to support you with that process.
The next question, can any changes be made after the proposal is submitted?
No.
For example, adding more businesses, etc.
No, once you submit your proposal on the 23rd of June, that is the proposal that will be evaluated. Now that being said, if you
Kim, just to say, if for example you would have submitted your proposal tomorrow, and you would have wanted to make some change before the deadline of June 23rd, that would be allowed. However, after, if you have submitted your proposal June 23rd or just before, no submissions would be allowed after the deadline date. You would recognize that this would be disadvantageous to others if any changes are to be made after the deadline date.
And I just add at that point as well that you would need to also retrieve your proposal, the previously submitted proposal from the hub, as well as check the application tracker submission portal online that you would have used to facilitate the submission of your initial proposal as well, if you are opting to update your proposal in any way. So it can't be just on one platform. It has to be done through both couriers of information, both online as well as the submission in Chaguanas.
I would also, going back to the original question about making amendments to your proposal once submitted. So while I said that you're going to be evaluated on the proposal that you submit, if you do win an award during the negotiation stage, if you want to make any amendments during negotiations and contracting, I believe that it would be possible at that stage, once you've won, to negotiate amendments to the proposal during that stage of the process.
Kim, it's Chitra again. I think that's the clarity I wanted, and you just literally took the words out of my mouth. So thank you for that. But what I was going to ask is that if you do win, and we find that there are other businesses who are interested in collaborating because they want to hire some of the youth that we would train, that is okay, isn't it? And then when we send you your final report, we can show that even though we started with 2 entities or 3 partners in the coalition, few more have joined in because they see the value add.
Yes, so all of that can be handled at the negotiation stage, and once you understand that the funding is capped, so the funding is capped at $475, and if you want to negotiate with the Ministry of Planning and Development to tweak your implementation, you should be able to negotiate that.
The next question, as it relates to programs that would require international consultants to execute, can accommodation costs be included in the budget?
Yes.
Next question, would consideration be given for an extension of the deadline date for proposal submission?
No.
Let me, Kim, let me tackle this question here. We are noting all of your concerns as it relates to the deadline. Kim has indicated that this is a project that has been launched since March the 29th, and so it's been 3 months since the call for proposals has been opened. However, having taken note of some of your concerns as it relates to the timeline and the time frame, and your understanding of the entire process, we will take it under advisement, and any decision as it relates to the deadline will be communicated to all participants, and it would be advertised accordingly, both in print as well as on the website. So just stay tuned if at all there's any need for any changes as it relates to the submission deadline, right?
The next question, the coalition that we have is with myself of Imbalance Pictures, which is registered. It also involves another entity that is not registered. We have worked together for many years on various projects. However, I have submitted my letter of interest and registration document. Is this okay, or do we both have to be registered businesses?
Well, how many persons currently is in that business? What was the name of the company, Tennille?
This would be Kevin Ball. So Kevin, you can unmute your mic if you would like to address your question.
Yes, hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Right, yes, it is just the two of us permanently in the coalition. Like, as if a project requires larger amounts of people, we bring them on temporarily. But that is kind of what we're looking for now with this proposal, to train people that are able to actually assist us. But it is not like we have so many full-time employees. It's only the two of us permanently in this.
Okay, so Kevin, you have a company that is registered in Trinidad and Tobago and is at least 10 months old.
Yes, it's been registered a few years now.
And you say that you have subcontractors that you employ on a part-time business. Over a 1 year period, do you have 10 or more subcontractors?
Generally, no. Most of the work is done by the two of us.
Okay, then Kevin, you'll need to aggressively try to find at least one other business to partner with.
So there's no, so we cannot, either he would have to register or I would need another registered business.
You'll need another registered business. If he registers, he will not have been registered for 10 months, right? Which is also
right.
So you would need another registered business, and that business would have had to be registered for at least 10 months.
Right, and okay then. So we would not count as a coalition at this point.
All members of the coalition have to be registered and be at least 10 months old.
Okay then, thanks.
No problems. Any other questions, Neil?
Yes, there is another question. Can the bank account be opened after the winners are announced? And how long before the funds are dispersed when the account is set up?
Okay, so it is the expectation that the bank account is going to be opened after the winners are announced, right? Because we're not going to make you open a bank account in the hopes that you win. So once you've been awarded, once you've gotten a letter of award, you will be then invited to open up a bank account. And based on your implementation schedule that you proposed in your proposal, once contracting is completed, the funds will be disbursed. So disbursement will be based on your implementation schedule and the time frame to complete contracting.
Are there any other questions?
Okay, so I'm going to go back to the proposal template and
I just had one quick question because I do have to leave.
Karen, sorry?
I have to leave the building. I have to leave the building. So I just had a quick question. Is it allowed for the funds to be used? Because with our program, we have our coalition members, and it's 5 core persons, and we are administering our program. Can the funds, well, we would like to, can the funds be used to remunerate these members and also assistants or not? Assistance would also come from the businesses in the coalition, as in the potential employees that we are also trying to service. These are our beneficiaries as well.
Funding has to go towards the implementation of your skills solutions. Yes. So if, for example, one of your business partners is providing training services, then you can cost their training services. You cannot cost miscellaneous fees, right? So
no, well, it won't be miscellaneous fees. It will be mentoring on our skills and the skills that we're doing, the training. So it won't be miscellaneous. It will be the mentors that we have and the training itself. We are also providing the training as well. So, but we have our training partner to help us out. So I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, you would itemize, and I hope you've looked at this template and seen the high level budget categories. You would itemize what you see as training services, what you see as mentoring support fees, and include that in your budget.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
Joy, those are all the questions that I have for now, so you can proceed. Sorry.
Okay. Kim, yes, no problem. Okay, so I'm moving on to section 3. I want to, ramp up the pace a little bit because I know everyone's time is precious and limited. So sections 3.1 and sections 3.2. Does anyone require clarification? Okay. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Now, if you'll notice in section 3.2, there's actually a table to guide you. So you're not in this alone. You can use that table as an example. Section 3.3, any questions? Going once, going twice, going 3 times.
I have a very quick question. Sorry, by the time I could unmute myself. It's Chitra again. What do you mean here when you say what will the beneficiaries receive?
We mean in terms of, for example, certification. So which certificates will they be awarded? If it's on-the-job training, what type of on-the-job training will they get? If it's mentorship, how many mentor contact hours will they be given? Does that clarify?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so I'm moving on to 3.5.
So Kim, the 18 months max that you have for this engagement is from start to finish of the program, which includes the certification as well?
So it would include being assessed to be certified, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to quickly share my presentation screen again. Okay. Are you seeing the presentation?
We are actually seeing the Zoom login page.
Okay, let me try again.
This is just a gentle reminder for anyone that may have any questions that fall outside of the scope of what Kim is presenting right now. Feel free to type in the chat box, which is to the right of your screen. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to try this again. And Tennille, can you let me know if you're seeing it?
Yes, it is being seen now.
Okay. Are you seeing it in slideshow format?
No, it's not. It needs to be full screen.
Okay. Okay. How about now?
Yes, it works now.
Okay. All right, great. So any questions about section 3.5? Okay, what I want to draw your attention to now is when you're putting together your implementation schedule and you're documenting your operational description, you will need to talk about your key performance indicators. So what I want to spend a little bit of time is just on a quick recap about KPIs. So we're all familiar with SMART KPIs, and I'm not going to go into the acronym because I assume that most persons are familiar with it, and it should be on your screen. What I do want to stress, however, is that ideally, your KPIs should not be dependent on factors that are outside of your control. So I'm going to give a quick couple examples of SMART and not SMART KPIs. So on the left, you will see what we've deemed to be SMART KPIs, and on the right would be a counter example of a not SMART KPI. So for example, here we want 2 customized digital literacy curricula developed by the 15th of November 2017. Contrast that with curricula developed by November 2017. You can see the level of specificity on the left is much greater than the level of specificity on the right, which then means the KPI on the left is something that is easily measured. The KPI on the right is fuzzy. So just to give you an example of what it means to be specific and measurable versus what is to be non-specific and very difficult to measure because you don't have a clear time-bounded KPI. So going to the next example, here we have 20 mentor-protege arrangements established by the 1st of December 2017, and on the right we have 500 mentor-protege arrangements established. Once again, the KPI on the right is not especially specific in terms of time, it's not well time-bound. Now, if you note, it also asks for 500 mentor-protege arrangements. And so one will ask ourselves, is that really realistic? What is the likelihood that someone can go out and find 500 persons who were willing to mentor? So this is a case where there is some specificity in the KPI, but then I have to ask myself, is that really achievable? Can someone really go out there and find 500 mentors in our current operating environment? That could be yay, that could be nay, but it does raise a question mark. So not a very smart KPI. In the next example, it says 90 persons trained in digital literacy fundamentals by the end of Q3. And the other KPI on the right, once again, is fuzzy. It says digital literacy fundamental training completed. Very fuzzy KPI. It's not a smart KPI. Now, lastly, this example is here to illustrate how persons can perhaps get overzealous. So we're asking for smart KPIs. We want you to be specific. We want to be measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. However, we also want you to not get so overly enthusiastic about specificity, for example, or the ability to measure, that you then create a KPI that is outside of your control bounds. So if you look on the left, it says 90 persons assessed on digital literacy fundamentals by the end of Q4. On the right, it says 100% of staff assessed receive scores in the 95th percentile. And one would ask oneself, what is the likelihood that I can assess persons and guarantee that 100% of them get top scores? So this is an example where this is not a SMART KPI because you've gotten so specific, you've overstretched on the measurement. So then you've now created a KPI that's outside of your boundary of control, because what is the likelihood that you can ensure that everybody gets top scores? So please be careful when you go about creating your KPIs in support of your proposal.
Kim, I just want to jump in here. This section that Kim is referring to, we're looking at section 3.5 of the template, which is the operational description. Now, really and truly, this is the bulk, or this is supposed to represent essentially your training plan. So this is the section where you're describing describing your training. You're describing how it's going to be implemented. You're describing how it's going to be delivered. And with this in mind, you have to therefore ensure that you indicate what your targets are. And it's in the determination of those targets by looking at these key performance indicators, or the KPIs, that the evaluation committee will be looking at this to see, as Kim rightly alluded to in those examples, looking to see whether you are being realistic and whether you're providing the right level of capacity and effort afforded to this particular training program. So this is really a very important section. Not to say that any other sections are not important, but this is the bulk of, this is the proposal. This is your training plan, and this is the section that is going to describe what your training plan is. So you need to pay particular attention to the KPIs and the targets that you are going to be outlining and defining.
Okay, at this point, any questions before we move on?
There is actually one question that came in. 1 second. And this is from Mr. Bao. Can companies be involved in more than one coalition partnership, especially in the case where both are successful?
Companies can form multiple coalitions, and if it so happens that you are part of a coalition that wins multiple awards, there's no restriction on that. However, that being said, you cannot have the same coalition with the same training providers submit multiple proposals. So for example, if I form a coalition with Mike, and I'm an app developer, and Mike and I decide that we want to do training on GIS, and then I form a coalition with Shelly, and Shelly and I decide that we want to do a coalition that is doing apps for food delivery. Those are two separate proposals. Those are two separate target beneficiaries, and I'm allowed to do that with different coalition partners. However, Mike and I cannot, as one entity, put forward a coalition to do just apps in GIS, and then turn around and say we now want to do apps related to landfills, and submit those as two separate proposals. Does that make sense?
Kim, I would probably also ask another question, because maybe some of the participants may be thinking as well, what is the policy as it relates to being a lead on a project? Can you be a lead on more than one proposal submission?
Yes, you can be the lead entity on more than one proposal submission, provided that there's enough diversity in the coalitions that you form and variation in the proposals that you submit.
Those are all of the questions that have come in to this point, so you can proceed.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to section 3.6, which is quality assurance. Any questions there? I think this would speak to some of the questions I had gotten earlier that was asked by Deborah. And then going once, going twice, going 3 times. Okay. Then I will go on to section 3.7, sustainability. I think that's pretty straightforward. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Alrighty, so moving on to section 4 in terms of the budgeting and the finances. Any questions on sections 4.1 through 4.4?
Folks, at this point, as we are dealing with the budget, I want you to be mindful of what were deemed to be eligible costs that can be applied in the cost of your proposal, eligible versus the non-eligible costs. And this section relates specifically to those items that are in the call for proposal instruction document. And also, if you look at the website, you would see that there would also be some on one of the sessions we had done previously, we had done a presentation and had provided some input related specifically to this issue.
There is one question that has just come in. Is there a minimum
Yes.
number of beneficiaries for the program?
No, there's no minimum number of beneficiaries, but I will stress that this is a competitive process where $475,000 will be awarded. So one would suspect that if I put forward a proposal where I'm training 2 persons for $475,000 and someone else puts forward a proposal where they're training 100 persons for $475,000, then there is going to be a competitive advantage for one proposal over another. That will draw your attention then to section 4.2, which is the cost per trainee and the value of the co-investment. So section 1.2 deals specifically with this. When you calculate your cost per trainee, are we getting, we have to look at the value for money in terms of the training solution. So cost per trainee is something that will be considered in the evaluation process.
There are no other questions right now, so you can proceed.
Okay, so I just got a clarification from Joy that has informed me that I had said that it is possible to be the lead on multiple proposals if there's diversity in your coalition and if there was enough variation in the proposals, but Joy has informed me that you cannot be the lead on multiple proposals, so my apologies for that, I misspoke.
One question that just came in. Not sure if I missed it, but what is the maximum number of awards to be made in this initiative?
There is, we said previously, there is a pool of funding, and so the number of awards will depend on the amounts requested in the proposals that have been top ranked. So one would suspect that if every candidate puts forward a proposal for $475,000 versus if every candidate puts forward a proposal for $200,000, then there will be more awards available versus if everyone goes to the max. So there is a pool of funding. The maximum award per proposal is $475,000, and top ranked proposals will get funding up to the amount in the pool. Does that clarify? Okay, so section 5 is the risk.
Before you proceed with section 5, I believe that Mr. Lindsay has a question that he would like to ask. Jason, if you can unmute your mic and you can proceed with your question.
Hi, Kim. Yeah, I just asked that last question about the awards. The reason being is I'm wondering in the evaluation process, right? So for example, somebody may be in the business solutions, IT business solutions field, and somebody else, like a company like ourselves, maybe in the animation field. So I'm just wondering, the reason I asked about that pool in terms of number of awards, I don't know if yourself and Joy, anybody else can do anything about this, but I do believe that there may be some industries with regards to IT locally are at a greater advantage than others that are less developed. And what that sort of creates is it sort of, I think like Matthew and Kevin sort of alluded to this before, those industries that have better infrastructure, have more experience locally and whatnot, have been able to develop more, would probably have a better chance in a limited pool of funding to be successful with the awards versus those industries that as a whole are not as developed. So there are not, for example, there are not 5 companies in Trinidad or even the Caribbean for that matter, 5 animation companies that have more than 10 employees. They're very few. So, I'm just wondering whether, without consideration of that, whether from an industry standpoint, our industry is advantaged. As a vulnerability, we may be the ones that may be furthest behind, but maybe need the most help, but we just aren't able to access that help because of that,
the constraint that you mentioned. And I hear you, Jason. And if you recall, one of the earlier sections ask about in very much the context and anticipated benefits. Right up front, it talks about, is it possible for you to do this skill solution on your own? So what is your case for needing government support? So it will be taken into consideration the need. Are you in, as you said, a mature industry, or are you large enough to embark on this on your own? Or are you someone who really needs this public support? Does that answer your question? So in terms of context and anticipated benefits, I believe the evaluation committee will take that opportunity to understand the need and if public funds will be well placed in support of that business need. And that will be considered.
So to have the advantage, I would have to clearly state that in my proposal, almost like a state from the industry.
Under context and anticipated benefits, it allows you to make that case. So, for example, point 5 says, provide the reason why the skills development solution cannot be executed without the support of this initiative. So in that space, you would make the case that, the animation industry is nascent in Trinidad and Tobago. It really needs public support because of the size of the firms involved, because of the growth potential of the industry, etc. So you'd put that under context and anticipated benefits and make a strong case for the money. Yeah?
Yes, understood.
Okay.
So another question, just to clarify, the training institution cannot be the lead on more than one proposal?
Based on the updated information that I got, that you cannot be the lead on multiple proposals. 1 second.
Joy, would you like to answer the other questions? Or Kim?
Joy has lost internet. She just called me.
Okay, no problem. The next question following up from that, again related to the involvement of lead partners. So just to clarify, there can only be one project with a certain lead, but partnered companies can be involved in multiple proposals?
Yes, you can be involved in multiple coalitions. I'm getting a message from Mr. Hackshaw. We lost several participants all at once. Seems like several users lost their connection. So what I got a call from Joy saying that she had lost her connection. So what I'd want to do is just to give a couple minutes to see if persons who have lost their connection can get back on stream.
No problem.
And I'm going to call Joy to see if there's any possibility to troubleshoot.
So for everyone that is still with us, you do have an opportunity still to submit your questions, and they will be queued for response as soon as we have optimal attendance again in the room. For the next couple of minutes, you're more than welcome to submit your questions via the chat box, which is to the right of your screen. Thank you.
down that's affecting multiple persons. But for the sake of time, I'm going to continue. The presentation will be put online. And if you have any additional questions, you can always email the website administrator, email Joy, and I'll have that email in the presentation as well. So we were on section 5, and I was asking if there are any questions. If there are any questions related to that. Tennille?
There are no questions, so you can proceed.
Okay, so what I'm going to try to do again, I'm going to try to share my presentation with you. And Tennille, can you let me know if you're seeing it?
Right now, no.
Okay, let me try again.
Sure.
Are you seeing it?
Yes, it just needs to be maximized, the screen.
Okay, I'll do that now. Okay, great. Okay, so I will quickly touch on some enablers. So one of the things that we need to ensure is that your proposal is robust and well aligned. So we need you to ask the question, for example, is there a clear link between the identified need and skill solution? As you prepare your proposal, make sure that that link comes through clearly without any ambiguity.
Kim, just to interject, my apologies. Jason is asking for an example of risk assessment, impact, and mitigation from Section 5, please. Okay,
Jason, I will get back to you in a little bit with that, because it's been such a hassle for me to share this presentation that I just want to go through, and then I'll come back to that question. Okay, so once again, we have to ask the question, have you clearly identified your beneficiaries? Have you clearly identified your outcomes? And are your implementation activities and timelines realistic? Please make every effort to ensure that your proposal is robust and the alignment between your business need and skill solution is very clear. In addition, we want you to make sure that your proposal has clarity and completeness. Make sure that we understand the who, the why, the what, the how, the where, and the when. All proposals should be well designed and address specific needs relevant to the ITES sector. And I want to stress that you have well-designed proposals that address specific needs relevant to the sector. And we've dealt with the KPIs already. So ultimately, this is what we're trying to achieve. And when you write your proposal, make sure that these linkages are clear. So your success in terms of the implementation of your skills solution should lead to expansion of the ITS sector and economic diversification. It should encourage growth in exports and country competitiveness. It should allow for increases in HR capability and capacity. So when you make your case, please ensure that you try to check as many of these boxes as you can. So I'm going to open the floor for some final questions. But I just want to put this slide up, which shows what's required. So you have to complete your proposal. You have to submit by Friday, June 23rd, 4 p.m., 1 original, 6 hard copies, and 1 electronic, 1 copy on a USB flash drive to 25 Ramsrand Street in Chaguanas. If you need any additional information, please go to the website. There is lots of supporting documentation there. If you have additional questions after today, you can send them to info@globalskills.gov.tt. And you can check the proposal instructions document, which will give you the cutoff date for requests for clarifications. It's in that document.
There is one question from Jason, which states that he's not fully clear on the new bank account protocol post-awards, but he has reservations on it. He wanted to wait until the end to ask about it, but he knows that it's not practical for an international service provider that is his training partner to open any sort of local bank account with them specifically for the execution of the initiative.
Okay, hi Jason, are you there?
Jason, you can feel free to unmute.
Yes, I'm here.
Jason, only one entity has to open the newer bank account, and we anticipate that will be a locally registered company. What we will ask is that the bank account is opened, that there's just a letter stating that all members of the coalition, that all members of the partnership have agreed that this entity can open the bank account on their behalf for the purposes of implementing the skills solution. So it's not the case that you have to open a joint account. That's not what we're asking. Only one entity can open the account once the others agree in writing that they are okay with this entity opening the account on the behalf of this project. Is that clarifying?
Well, yes and no. I mean, it definitely clarifies it. Something that I'd taken note, taken note of earlier, that, I mean, for me, I found it was very confusing when we speak of coalition and partnerships. It seemed like we were using it interchangeably. However, I understood from the previous briefing that partnerships would be partnerships across the, if you want to call it, business and training divide. However, coalitions...
Let me clarify. The partnership with the training provider. So at the front of all the documents, be it the proposal instructions document or the proposal template, definitions are given. Coalitions are formed between business entities. Partnerships are formed between either a firm and a training provider, a coalition and a training provider, training providers, or a business association and a training provider, training providers. So when we refer to partnerships, partnerships are between business entities, be it a firm, be it a coalition of firms, be it a business association, and the training provider, training providers. Coalitions are groups of businesses. And in many cases, you will tend to see coalitions based on size. So smaller firms that have less than 10 employees have been encouraged to form coalitions. And the rationale for that is obvious. Then you have economies of scales. Then you can probably benefit a wider universe of persons for training. So partnership means business, coalition, or association linked to training provider, training providers. Coalitions refer to business entities that have agreed to enter into this call for proposals as a collaborative entity.
And the bank account protocol applies, does that apply to coalitions or partnerships?
So the bank account has to be opened on behalf, so a partnership could be a coalition and a training provider, right? That is a partnership. What it does mean is that one entity opens up a bank account on behalf of everybody. We are not asking everybody to go to the bank together and open an account. What we are asking is that everybody that forms the partnership, be it a coalition or one firm and the training provider, they agree, because they're in this in partnership, that they agree that this person is opening an account on their behalf. So, for example, Jason, you can take it upon yourself and open up a bank account without the agreement of whoever your training provider partner is.
Okay, so I guess, yes, it applies to both partnerships and coalitions, the bank account.
But only one entity is opening up the account.
Okay, so once we have that letter, as you said.
Yes, saying that everybody agrees that Jason is going to open up the account on their behalf.
Now, how would you know that I opened a new bank account?
You will bring proof that the account is, because the funds have to go into something. So you will bring proof that the account is open and that everyone has agreed that they are using this account. Now, you will be audited. All winning partnerships will be subject to audit.
No, my question is, how do you know that that account is a new account?
Well, in the contracting arrangements, you have to agree to open a bank account. If you choose to do something illegal, then when you're audited, it will become apparent that it's illegal, and you will deal with the consequences of getting into an illegal arrangement with the Ministry of Planning and Development. So your contract requests that you open a new bank account. Jason, if you choose to use your personal account and claim it's a new bank account, and you get your members of your partnership to sign off on that, then you will be legally responsible when you are audited.
Is Joy still online?
Joy is no longer online.
She's not online, unfortunately. She was affected by the ISP outage.
Okay, well, I'll still raise it because I know that Kim is, integrally involved. I do not think, it's just my opinion, but I do not think that, so there are two things here I want to address specifically. I guess I'm being optimistic that I'm going to win anyway. But there are two things specifically that, with regards to practicality, I do not, and I'm not saying I will not, but I do not want to open a new company bank account specifically for this. There are so many declarations that have to be made. There's a pain in the ass to open bank accounts and then to close it after. So, I mean, generally, that is just my preference. I mean, I'm not asking you all to change, but I prefer not to have to open a brand new bank account just for this initiative for a sum of money that is not, I mean, I don't think there's, that's my feeling. The second thing, just stick up in the first one for a while. The second issue is I do not believe that even if we did open a new bank account specifically for this initiative with our partners who will provide the training, I do not think, with regards to the letter that you mentioned, Kim, I do not believe that anything more than acknowledgement acknowledgement by the service provider / partner that funds associated with this initiative should be, we agree that it can be paid to, we have no objection that it can be paid to XYZ. Anything more than that, it will be a very, very tough sell. Just one sec. For for international service providers, publicly traded companies, any acceptance of, liability with regards to an account that is outside the financial infrastructure of their corporate entity, it puts them at risk, So even though it's all well and good, my point is because they do not have sight, international service providers, companies that we partner in, they do not have sight of everything here with regards to this initiative. We actually go into them and say, listen, we need your help. We're doing this. It's being funded. We need to partner. That's all well and good. But the bottom line is that they expect to be paid as service providers, which is fine. That's a very clear transaction. To accept any implicit liability for any account to be open for any reason by me or anybody else, I think is a risk that will turn them off and by extension put my proposal at risk. So I'm just
Jason, we're not asking you to form a joint venture agreement or to put any partner at legal risk. All we want to ensure is that the person involved acknowledge that they are aware that the account exists and that the funds are going into it for the purpose of this project.
Well, what we'll do, I want to suggest for us, we'll certainly do it. I don't know how it coordinates with the deadline is, we will have to draft a letter.
And you don't need that at this stage, right?
Yeah, well, the thing about it is what happens if I win, right? I mean, I don't want to win and then end up in a situation where we're unable to fulfill because somebody's lawyer will not agree to a letter that, you know what I mean? So I think even if if we can get a draft okayed, I think that will give somebody peace of mind that, we're not, because basically, Kim, what we're doing is we're saying, we want to part your chair, but it's not so straightforward. We're not just going to pay. You have to accept that we open in a bank account from which these funds will be. It becomes complex. So, I would want to draft a letter for approval of, whether it be yourself and the team, and make sure that I say, because I know that their attorneys will take SU, if anything.
I'll just also take the opportunity to interject because I'm seeing some feedback from the program manager of the Global Services Promotion Program, and he's directly addressing the concerns being expressed. You do need to submit a proof of account opening from the bank. Many of these details will be addressed during the contract negotiations with the Ministry of Planning and Development, and the contracts will not be signed without agreement from all parties. Now, Tracy, I don't know if you'd like to unmute and address anything else further to bring clarity, but you have the opportunity to do so if you would like.
Yes, so are you all hearing me? Is it clear? Yes, not?
Yes, Tracy, we can hear you.
Right. Yeah, so Jason and others, the issues you're raising are important issues, and we're not saying they're not important, but the submission of your proposal is not dependent on this at this point in time. I understand what you're trying to say, and the issue that you're raising will need to be addressed in your particular situation. For example, at contract negotiations, I am reasonably certain that there's a solution to the problem you're addressing, and there's a legal remedy to whatever the issues might be, and they will be addressed in contract negotiations. But rest assured that at the proposal stage, this will not become an issue per se. The issue will, of course, arise, as you said, is when you come to the contract. Now, in terms of letters, exchange of letters and transmission of letters and so on, I think all that's being asked right now is nothing legal prior to the contract. So you're basically submitting a proposal to treat with something, and any letters that are coming in that proposal can, in fact, form a basis of a contract. But the actual contract, which is being drafted for the purpose of your particular arrangement, will be a mutually agreed situation, and so on. In terms of the bank account, the issue in terms of auditing is important. I'm not saying that what you are saying is not important, but from the standpoint of auditing, there needs to be a way to track the funds clearly from the standpoint of the government and the auditing process. And again, in that contract negotiation, if there's a solution to the problem that you're addressing, that you're raising can be found, that'll be addressed there. The current thinking is that a separate account is the easiest way to treat the issue of potential commingling of funds and inability to track the funds. So if there are other ways that in the contract negotiations that can be dealt with, that can be dealt with during the contract phase. So I'm just trying to make it clear that there is going to be a phase where all of your issues, assuming that you are in fact successful, will be dealt with and addressed. And again, there'll be no signing of the contract until those issues are put to bed. So rest assured, it wouldn't be a situation where you can't deliver because there'll be a contract that you would have signed, that you'd have been agreeing to, that the ministry would have agreed to as well. So I'll make that very clear. Thank you.
Okay.
Kim?
Yes, are there any additional questions?
We have no additional questions at this time.
Okay.
I'd just like to give the members that are still with us the opportunity to pose any questions. You can feel free to type your message. Oh, I'm hearing somebody unmuting. Do we have someone?
Kim, it's Chitra. I actually posted a question there asking, do you prefer the proposal to be delivered on a thumb drive physically to your location there, or can it be done electronically? Do you have a preference of one of the two?
It has to be hand delivered. We need both hard copies as well as the USB thumb drive.
Oh, so it has to be hand delivered. Okay.
Yes.
And that would also be in addition to it being submitted online as well.
No, Antonio.
No, only in person.
In person and the hard drive.
Okay.
And the thumb drive, sorry.
So you want the thumb drive and 6 hard copies to be
Yes.
hand delivered on the 23rd, the latest.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, and just to add, in accordance with what Tracy is saying as well, the physical copy is mandatory. Do we have any other questions?
Okay, so it's now 12:15. So I just want to thank everyone who's still with us for participating in today's session. If between now and this evening you have any additional questions, please feel free to email the info at globalskills.gov.tt.
I just want to thank you very much, Dr. Ortega, and thank Neil and Joy for this very informative presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So at this time, I'd like to once again thank everyone for joining us here today. If you have any additional questions, the frequently asked questions section of the website does address in great detail several of the questions that would have been posed over the course of this call for proposal period. You also do have the opportunity to email Ms. Lange Syriac at info@globalskills.gov.tt. And we look forward to continued work with you, and thank you once again for taking the time to join us today.
Anthony, just one last thing. Joy was supposed to say this at the end. This is Tracy Hackshaw speaking. The initial point about the issue to the extension request or any additional time, the request needs to come in writing via that email address that was just mentioned. So just reiterating this, if anyone is seeking an extension of time to the deadline, please submit your request via email to info@globalskills.gov.tt, and we are hoping to receive those requests as soon as possible, ideally before the end of the day. The reason for that is that if any consideration is to be given to an extension, there's work that needs to be done on our end to ensure that is reviewed, and if it is approved, it needs to be communicated in good time, obviously. So we need to get those requests in if you do request that extension, ideally before the end of the day, today, 14th June 2017. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again, and do enjoy the rest of your day.